This is a building right behind me that you're looking at. This was built as a hardware store. Mr. Adams built it, and later he added his partner, Mr. Kennard. And it was a hardware store from the literally the late 1880s when it was built. And it stayed in Adams and Kennard, both of them kept living until the 1960s. It was still a hardware store till both of them passed away in a relatively short amount of time from one passing to the other. At one time on this street, there were 3 hardware stores all open at the same time. But this one was the oldest, obviously. And now that it's no longer a hardware store, it's been bought and stuff hung on the side of it, you know. Being a part of the Sheffield Historic Commission, this kind of stuff just doesn't sit well with most people on our commission, but the city does not have an ordinance in place yet. Yet.
Why doesn't it fit well?
Is what?
Why doesn't it fit well?
It takes away from the historic nature of the building, in my opinion. That's my opinion. Now, the folks that live there like access to that upstairs without having to go through inside, maybe. I don't know. But that's just a matter of opinion. But historically speaking, that's a detraction. It was a jewelry store, a ladies' dress shop, and actually a building construction office. And later on, when those folks moved out, Carl Cassidy bought the whole piece of property at one time and put in. How can I say this? The best I know, because I know Carl from way back and taught his brothers and sisters. I didn't teach Carl because he's my sister's age, but one of the premier, I guess that's it, one of the premier florists in America. In America. If you've never been in there, you need to go. If you have any floral needs, this is the guy. He goes all over. He does work in D.C. a lot, in New York a lot, Charleston, Savannah, those kind of places. I mean, he is unreal. Anyway, because in the early '60s there was a pharmacy drugstore here called a Smoke Shop. Sold all kind of smoking products, and it was a cool little place to go when you were a kid. But it caught fire and burned down, and this lot just sat and sat and sat until Laquita bought this property and built this building in 14. And you realize I'm not stopping at every every door, every entryway. Numerous businesses over the years, but this building right in here was almost configured like this in the 50s and 60s. I will tell you where this stops right here. Back in the 50s and 60s, the glass entryway came out to about here, and that one came out to about here, and this was just like a little tunnel between 2 glass entryways. And this was a barber shop, and this over here was the Big BIGE dash NUF, the Big Enough Restaurant. It was just big enough to get in with about 10 people. They had a counter with seats, no place to sit down at a table. Behind the barber shop and the cafe was a huge pool room. But before all that, this was Sheffield's first theater. A theater with real live acting. This is before movies. This is before talking movies. This was the Theato, Theato, the Theato. This was a movie. I mean, not a movie, a real live theater. But when I was a kid, if you wanted a real sure enough hamburger, and it was like 10 cents, and I don't think they had French fries when I was a kid, probably potato chips and a drink. You could come down here after school or on a weekend, and for a quarter, you could just have hamburger, chips, and a drink, you know. But the big enough. And anybody that grew up in Sheffield will know about the big enough. Before and after pictures, because this building that's standing right behind me was built as a jewelry store initially in the late 1890s or early 1900s. It was a fancy jewelry store. And then over the years, it became shoe store. It became, I'm trying to think, there was something behind the shoe store, but I can't remember. A clothing store. Downstairs, there was a dentist's office. That's what it looked like initially. This is what it looked like by the 60s or 70s when these other places were in there. And then by 1980, it went vacant. And it sat unused for about 30 to 40 years. And it was leaking bad, and it was terrible. And you'll notice right next door to this building is the library. And the building on this side of the library that the library owned was feeling the effects of the moisture from this building. And so the family that owned it, the city was going to take them to court because it was interfering with a city-owned property, and the family ended up selling it to the city for $1 so that the city could have something done. And the city ended up selling it to a developer who turned it into restaurant area. And now it's on its third restaurant to date, since about 2015, I guess. But anyway, this building is historic. It's historic. It don't look like this anymore, but this is initially what it was like. Now, where I'm standing is right in front of this yellow building. And if you don't believe me, come up here and you can see the name right here in the tile. This is Crump Camera Shop when I was a kid. There have been other businesses in this particular building, but for the most part, it had been a camera shop from way back. And so when the city bought it as kind of an annex to the library, that building's demise is what precipitated the renovation of that building. And you'll notice in 2016, this building was completely renovated. This room was completely renovated. It's dedicated to the King family, who made a nice contribution to the Friends of the Library, of which I happen to be president. And so I helped oversee the renovation of not only this room, but the entire front of the library as well. And so we're distinctly proud of the library that we have in downtown Sheffield. This is more of an event room. If we have special occasions in the library, we will get Red Clay to cater, and they set up their food presentation in this room for our attendees. I will tell you this, and this is not the tour. This is the president of the Friends of the Library. If you're not following Sheffield Library on Facebook, or you're not following me, let me just beg you to do so. You will not believe the kind of events that we do. We have big-time authors come in. I'm talking big-time authors where we go to the Clarion and sell out the whole room out there. And Red Clay always caters our events out there. And we have Alabama authors that will come and make presentations in the library. We have music events quite often in the library. And at most events that we have free food in here. So if you're not following the library, you need to, because it's happening in there. I'll tell you, we're beginning to get the word out actually all the way across the river, John. We've had people from Florence come and attend some of our events. Provided school books. And so you'd come down here and buy school clothes and buy the books that you needed for whatever grade you were in. But we redid the whole front of the library back in 15 and 16. Built as a Sheffield pharmacy back in the day.
This is William Goss, and you're watching North Alabama Local History.
Y'all just kind of step back and look and notice this building that starts at the corner and goes all the way to the alley. This was called the Montgomery Block Building, 1889. We have been fortunate to keep this building as well as some of these others. Now, don't get me wrong, we've lost a few as well. Somehow or another, they've all been hotels, it seems like, for the most part. But this building, being 3 stories, over the years, it has housed dozens and dozens and dozens of businesses and professionals. Doctors, dentists, lawyers, I mean, you name it, have had offices in here, and opening on the street were all kind of different businesses. Carpets, furniture. This is a upholstery shop right here, right now. But Montgomery Block Apartments has been here for a long time, very prominent on this part of the street. And we're just about done. Come on up, let me show you. I want to give you a perspective to what this building was when I was a kid. This picture is taken right out in the middle of the street, and you will notice it says Liberty Supermarket. This was a top-notch grocery store when I was a kid. This is where my mama came and did all her grocery shopping right here at Liberty. Way back, it had a 3rd floor on it, and it had caught fire, and they took the 3rd floor off and kept the top 2 floors. But Liberty, like a lot of other things in the 70s, gave up on downtown, and Liberty moved across the railroad track and went down and built a brand new building just across from Town Plaza. If you're familiar with South Montgomery, where David Christopher's is, that was the Liberty Supermarket then. But this was Liberty back in the day. Now, you're looking behind me right here. When that hotel burned and these other hotels were further down Montgomery Avenue, the money people, the deep pocket people said, we need to replace the Sheffield Hotel. And so in 1955, this building was started. And about a year and a half later, they completed a brand new hotel. Now, for the lack of me, I cannot understand this. Instead of saying we've built a new Sheffield Hotel, or instead of saying, instead of the Sheffield Hotel, this is the Hotel Sheffield, they opened up Hotel Muscle Shoals. And I don't know how they ever came to an agreement to let that building have that name. Because at that time, in the mid to late 50s, Sheffield had attempted to annex Muscle Shoals. And Muscle Shoals residents voted to refuse Sheffield. And then we turn around and we say, well, we got your hotel over here at our house. Y'all need to come on over here. I don't know if that's what happened or not. But anyway, it was a Muscle Shoals. Hotel Muscle Shoals in 1955. And it stayed that way until about 1975 or 76, and it just closed the door. Maybe before that, 72 maybe. And anybody know what moved in behind it? Shoals Hospital came and bought this building and reconfigured it. Now you think about a hospital, they had to take every door and widen out the doors and then run all that stuff through those walls, oxygen and all that stuff. And so they outfitted this building as a hospital, and it operated as a hospital for quite some time until the hospital was so popular, I guess, they decided we can probably go to Muscle Shoals and build a Shoals hospital that will be bigger and more modern. And so they moved out. And early 80s, the guy that owned the property where Foodland is and owned a lot of other businesses in the area, the guy by the name of Bob Love, bought this building, and he created Park Place out of this building. And later on, he bought Valley Credit Bank and added Park Place to it as well. And so this is residential apartments now. You can go in here and rent an apartment, and one price pays for everything, you know, heat, cable, whatever. And so Park Place is, I can't tell you who owns it right now. Bob Love passed away, and his estate sold Park Place, but I'm not sure. There was a doctor that owned it at one time, but I can't tell you now who owned it. It's almost time to go, but I got one more stop that you just cannot miss. Come on. This is that. What you're looking at presently is a part of Park Place. There are apartments, lower level, upper level, but what you're looking at here is what we lovingly call Sheffield Community Center when I was a kid. In fact, my class was so big when we graduated in 1969, the auditorium at the high school couldn't hold us. I graduated in this building over here, and it looked like this right here. Sheffield Community Center was started back in the late 40s after the war by the YMCA, but they did not have the money to complete it. And so City Fathers did a fundraiser and got enough money to buy out the YMCA, and this became city property, and this was the community center. This was where the basketball court was for all the church league basketball games and that kind of stuff. This was the location for huge music events. Elvis played here for 50 cents a ticket. Johnny Cash played here. Jerry Lee Lewis played here. All those guys from the 50s, if you can think of big names, they came through Sheffield and had gigantic sellout concerts in this building right here. But as a Sheffield Community Center, this was managed by the Park and Recreation Department. In 1981, maybe, I worked for the Park and Recreation Department one summer, and it was at that time they were moving out of this building and moving into the new rec center right across the street from the high school. And so I was sort of helping transition out of this building, and it was after this building became vacant, that Shoals Hospital had moved in, and once the city vacated, Shoals bought it for storage, and then Bob Love bought it. But keep in mind, they had to put a second floor on it, because think about a basketball court in there was open all the way to the ceiling. So they had to reconfigure that building completely. But back in the day, this is what it looked like. Now, if you've learned something today, thank you for listening. You have a question? Oh, you learned something. You learned something, you go up here. But I want to tell you how much I appreciate you coming today. Thank you for participating. It's been my pleasure to talk about my hometown.